Welcome to Describing the Skybox, the podcast that's like a book club for people who don't think that books reward them enough for being good at them. I'm Chad Ruthermond.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today, we're going to be talking about Resident Evil Requiem, a game that was developed and published by Capcom and released in 2026 on Windows, Switch 2, PS5, and the Xbox Series X and S.
But first, if you can give us a like or a rating, subscribe, follow us on Blue Sky, it would be greatly appreciated. Chad, can you describe Resident Evil? Why don't we just do both?
I should have looked this up prior. I shouldn't need to look this up because I literally wrote it with my own hands and brain. But yeah, so Resident Evil 9/Requiem, we are also going to do both in that we will call it both Requiem and 9 throughout the podcast, and you're just going to have to deal with it, I guess. Which, weirdly, as a side note, just about the title of the game, which hopefully will not be a big discussion.
Re-9
Requiem is that for some reason, while I have a difficult time calling Resident Evil Biohazard and Resident Evil Village by their correct titles and just call them 7 and 8, Requiem I've had no trouble at all not calling Resident Evil 9, and I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I call 7 7 and I call this one 9. I think Village is the only one I call by its subtitle.
You actually call it Village.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I was hypothesizing that is because I don't know if this one had Roman numerals highlighted in the name like they are in the other ones.
Replaced the Q with a 9.
Right, that's what it is. And that barely counts at all, to be
Reninium.
fair. Yeah. I want to say, okay, so I said, if you are a longtime listener, and by a long time I mean like 6 months ago, you will know that I made a list of my top 100 games of all time, and Andy very kindly laid it out for me because I am a baby of graphic design. And in that, I talk about Resident Evil 7, and I note this pattern in the Resident Evil franchise. The first 3 games, numbered games in the series, which is like 6 games. It's like Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, 0, Code Veronica. Maybe it's 5 games. We'll call it 5. Those ones all play in a very similar way. You know how they play. They play like the standard survival horror game that everybody knows and loves. Then Resident Evil 4 shook up the formula and was enormously successful. And so Resident Evils 5 and 6 played very similarly to 4, though to worsening quality throughout from there. So Resident Evil 7, and we did an episode on Resident Evil 7, so you can go back and listen to that if you want to hear a more in-depth discussion on it, felt like it looked back at that first era of games and was like, what made this work? Single location, more survival horror, less action, and just ramped up the visuals and the audio and stuff to make it more of a modern immersive horror experience. And it ends up being like my favorite Resident Evil other than 4. And then 8 rather feels like it looked back at the Resident Evil 4. And I'm like, you gotta stop doing that. It led you astray the last time. And Village is still good. Like, it's still a fun game, but I think I like it significantly less than 7. I don't know what the general consensus is. But my joke was that the only thing left for Resident Evil 9 to do was to look back at its own era at 7 and 8 and try and emulate that. But it was a joke. I was like, haha, how could they do that? That's some kind of weird meta narrative. They just did it. They just put both games in the game.
Well, yeah,
it's so strange.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Like, your cynical brain could have totally predicted it. That they did 7, which was very popular, and then they just did 4 remake, which was very popular. So they just stapled them together. So let's just make it like 7 and 8 and 4 remake.
Yeah, I described it in my top 100 games as a self-referential black hole, which I think is more accurate than I would have even given myself credit for at the time. So yeah, so that's where we start. Resident Evil 9 is a survival horror game, and it is a horror themed action game. And this was the thing that I was too foolish to see happening. It incorporates, if you take Resident Evil 9 as the culmination of the Resident Evil 7, 8, and 9 grouping into its own trilogy like the previous sections did, then you have to also acknowledge the fact that this game said, well, we also remade all of the previous games up until 4, right? So those now are getting lumped into this as well because they're all in the same engine. So it's also kind of like a self-masturbatory look back at Resident Evils 2 and 3, in addition to being a combination of the things that made Resident Evil 7 work and the things that made Resident Evil 8 kind of work and the things that made the Resident Evil 4 remake work as well. And they tried to sort of stuff that all into one game like a ill-fated turducken of survival horror.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the Terminator franchise. I feel like I feel like it feels less masturbatory, although it is a little, and more like they're trying to like wrap it all up so that they could have like a clean slate is kind of what it feels like. If Terminator is anything to go by, they will try that multiple times and it'll never really stick, and they won't know what to do next.
As far as I'm aware, there isn't time travel in Resident Evil yet.
Not
so
yet.
That's like the saving grace.
Yeah, we have to go back in time and stop the T virus from ever happening.
The T-1000 virus. But yeah, I do want to talk about that. I want to talk about this in the context of my playthrough, because that is ostensibly what the selling point of this podcast is supposed to be. Whether or not we usually sort of talk about our experiences in a more broad way or not, who knows? But this time, I'm going to do it by the books. I went into this game pretty blind. I was actually kind of upset that I had been spoiled that Leon was even in the game before it came out. Like, I didn't know that. But then it's like literally on the cover art, and also when you launch the game, it's like, when you play as Leon, do you want it to be in third person?
Right.
So there wasn't really a spoiler there at all. That was the level of blindness that I came into this game with. I didn't know like anything at all about it. So one of the earlier notes that I took was talking about, and this is sort of launching into the first big thing that I want to talk about, how much I liked the fact that this was a Grace-centric game with Leon as these like interstitial bits. And I even went so far as to praise the overlap and the interaction between the two, and how much I was enjoying that. And I liked the design language and how they took it, and that the Leon parts were really short and controlled. So I was very shocked to then go into the second half of the game and basically have it change completely from what the first like 5 or 6 hours were.
I was kind of similar. I didn't really follow this game either. But I mean, when they first showed Leon, I feel like everybody posted about it online, so I knew about that right away.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid.
But yeah, like it wasn't supposed to be a surprise anyway, so no big deal. But I was expecting it. I would have bet lots of money that half of the game would be played as Leon, but I also kind of wish that it would have stayed the same as the first half.
Yeah. I mean, if it ideally, well, because I heard many positive things about this game, and I don't want to come in here and say like I feel negatively about this game, because I really don't. which I feel like is a thing that I say on every episode now. I actively like this game. Like, I think it is a good game that I enjoyed playing. But I do think that the difference in how much I was enjoying the game differed pretty significantly from the first half to the second half. And I think it really... It suffers in a lot of ways, and part of it is comparison, I think. Like, I obviously am a big fan of Resident Evil 7 and of Resident Evil 4. And I like both the original and the remake, though I like the original better for Resident Evil 4. So that's important context here, because the problem that I kept having was I was like, in the first half, I was like, I feel like they maybe made the Leon sections too fun for the parts in which they like were spliced into the game. It felt like it reduced the stakes a lot whenever they came up.
It feels like an intentional contrast, though, because like you've been, especially for the first time, like you're playing as Grace and you're like, you know, just feel like very powerless and like you're conserving your ammo and doing all the survival horror stuff, and then you play as Leon and you're just fucking destroying everything. So like I feel like they wanted that to be like a contrast, like a release valve for you.
Yeah. But then when I got to the part that was all Leon, I was like, oh no, it's actually so much less fun than the Resident Evil 4 remake version of Leon is. And I think it comes down to the enemy design. I don't know if we want to talk about this right now, but I think the fact that the zombies are not as reactive as the villagers in Resident Evil 4 are makes them, they feel more bullet spongy. It feels like you have less of a like impact with your choices as the player, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that is the thing that made me as disappointed as I was in the way that, well, not only that, and the fact that we lose this incredible back and forth game design where like Grace can find things and then Leon can show up and like open a door that Grace couldn't find, or can kill an enemy that Grace would have a difficult time with, to, you know, cause this like it felt like you were helping each other out in like this asymmetrical way. Which made that first part of the game set in the care center so strong design wise. And then when you get Grace back at the end of the game, they separate her from Leon completely. So you lose that overlap entirely. And it makes it, I don't know, it made me really sad.
Yeah. I think the reason the enemies aren't as like robust or whatever, or as reactive is, I think that's a product of the having their cake and eating it too, because you can play Leon's whole section in first person if you want to. So I think, yeah, like the enemy designs, they can't take as full advantage of it when it's just RE4 and the whole game's designed around that. So it has to be able to be played both ways. But then they could probably make the argument that like, oh, like Leon's older and he's not as good as fighting, or I don't know, maybe they might explain it away like that, but I don't know. But yeah, I agree that the first half is stronger. I actually didn't know if you would, since you're such a big fan of RE4. I haven't like looked into other people's opinions on it, but like I was about ready to like come in here and feel like a nitpicky asshole, like saying, expressing similar opinions to yours. So, because I imagine this being like the kind of game that like the average person just loves straight up.
And I think that is panning out to be true. I like I said up front, like I do think that I still liked Leon's sections. I just like them less than Grace's sections. And by a fair margin. I am coming at this with a more harsh, I think, like critical eye, because I am such a fan of this franchise and the fact that they've done really good work recently. I felt like this felt like it was they'd lost some of their chops. And it's not like the games that I like don't have problems. Like, they made the Resident Evil 4 remake, and I like it less than the original game that came out 20 years before it. So like, it's not like they came in, they're just like churning out banger after banger. Resident Evil 7 is only actually good up until the last level, and then it kind of sucks for like 2 hours. So yeah, but from anybody that I've talked to about it, the general consensus is like, it's great. Resident Evil Requiem, well worth recommended by nearly everyone. And I don't know how much of that is a lot of reviews this early in the game's life cycle maybe didn't even get to the Leon part yet. But based on the achievement percentages on Steam, it seems like a lot of people did. So beats me. I don't know.
I think it's just one of those kind of games that, like, if you compare it to all the other AAA stuff coming out now, I feel like it fares better.
I mean, I would kind of agree. Yeah. I did have a thought, like, before we came in here, where I was like, we cannot do recent AAA games ever again. Because, like, I love to be able to come in and just, like, talk about, like, how I play the game and how I feel about it. But, like, it was impossible for me not to get exposed to, like, some opinion stuff on this game. Like, people talking about it in real life or online. Just like, it comes up in the circles that I run in. And so I was forced to see, and I was like, oh, the other people have similar complaints with the Leon thing. So it's like, I don't have like an original take on this, or like, it feels like I might be parroting somebody else's opinion, that kind of thing. So it's a very frustrating experience for me, like just being online and living for the last like 2 weeks of my life.
Right.
I do want to talk about, I think, progressing kind of like in the same way that the game does. Talk about the design of some of Grace's segments, the care center stuff early in the game. And actually, just to start with Leon, actually, because it's one of the first times that you play Leon. When the first place that you play Grace is in the nurses station, which is this area of the care center that is just like locked off for the rest of the game after you leave it. And it's just that like brief part where you go back and forth, and then eventually Leon comes in and gives you the Requiem, like the giant magnum. And when you pick up as Leon, to get to that point, you're in this bizarre segment where you are like kidnapped and tied to a chair. And oh wait, no, it's before this. Actually, it's you aren't kidnapped. You're just being shown into an office, and then a zombie with a chainsaw busts in and kills one of the nurses, and you just have to like kill a bunch of zombies. That's like your introduction to Leon's part after the like actual tutorial part where you're in the hotel and whatever. And it set the stage in such a strange way for the tone of this game and how it is very different, where Leon's part of the care center sections are almost like slapstick comedy with like how the chainsaw like buzzes around on the floor and can hurt you or other zombies, and they like grab onto it and it pulls them around, and you have to like, whoa, get out of the way, but like you can take damage. It's not a big deal because you're Leon and can just like heal it off and it doesn't matter. And then for it to cut back and forth between that kind of a thing and then to Grace's sections, which I think are genuine. I think the nurses station is one of my favorite parts of the game, where you have like actually nothing. You just have like glass bottles that you find, and you have to sneak around. I think it was so effectively frightening, and it was so weird to have it juxtaposed with the wackier elements of Leon's part. And I was excited for that to be sort of the back and forth of the entire game.
Right. No, it definitely like is one of the parts of the, like those first couple Leon parts are some of the most that feel like Resident Evil 4. Because it does have a little bit of that like goofier action movie feel. That I guess that's probably the part where like the two halves are the strongest is at the beginning. Yeah, because like the early stuff as Grace is the most like scary throughout the whole game as well. I think I just full agree on that. And I even like the way that that part transitions, where you finally get into the spot where you open the gate, and then like Leon gets pulled in, and then you you roll out, and then it gets shut. So like I feel like that's like a cool like trade off.
Mm. It works on multiple levels. It actually complements the story with the gameplay in a way. And there's a lot of contrivances in Resident Evil games just as a genre rule. And like a suddenly closing gate is definitely one of those things. But it does work just as both like a literal translation of what is happening in the gameplay. And it gives you sort of like, oh, right, because this is a Resident Evil game. I'm going to be in a big antechamber room that has 2 staircases going up.
Mm-hmm.
The classic Resident Evil format.
Yeah, the classic hub.
Yeah, the hub area. So it was a good introduction to that stuff as well. I do want to say, I did kind of skip over this. There is a section at the beginning where you're at the hotel and you go in, etc., whatever. And then Leon shows up in a fucking sports car and just like smashes people with with the axe, with the hatchet.
Mm-hmm.
And that part's cool or whatever, but it does read mostly like a tutorial. But even then, the Grace part is kind of great. Though I do want to comment narratively, there's no way that the plot of this game should have happened. Because there was like this sequence where the guy, her like boss at the FBI,
mm-hmm.
is like, Grace, you got to go to we need an analyst on scene at the hotel where your mother was killed. And she was like, geez, I really don't want to do that because of all of the trauma I have from it. And he's like, Grace, it's been 8 years. You got to get over it. And I'm like, okay, like if the guy says like, oh, it's been 8 years and you should get over it, maybe she like had a heart attack or something. But within like 10 minutes of the game starting, you see that she was sent to the hotel where her mother was decapitated in front of her. In the most horrific way imaginable. You don't get over that, no matter how many years it's been. And this is an HR visit when she gets back, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, she still goes, and the events of the game unfold.
I had some notes on Grace, and this seems like a decent place to bring it up. I like Grace as a character overall. But, like, what do you think of the fact that she is an FBI agent? Because I feel like she is not believable as an FBI agent, like, at all. And what I mean by that, I feel like she is not written like she is one. She's very bumbling, and, like she shows up at that hotel, and and there's the police officer that's on guard, and she's kind of like distracted, and he's like, hey, what are you doing here? And she's like, and you know, she like finds her badge, and it's like, if you watch the scene, and like later on when she meets Emily, she's like, oh, I'm with the police. And it's like, if you watch that scene out of context, you would think she was lying. Like, I feel like she was like in the FBI. She has this thing where she can't look people in the eye as well. I just feel like if she was in the FBI, she would have a certain level of like competence or like a collectedness to her. And she would have, if she had a problem looking people in the eye, it's a thing that she probably would have had to deal with throughout all the schooling and training it takes to become an FBI agent. Like, I don't know. I just felt like she felt very Ethan Winters to me. She felt just like an every woman who is thrown into a Resident Evil scenario. And I feel like she did not at all act like an FBI agent.
Yeah. Well, I have thoughts on this because I had a similar... the cop scene in particular, because it's kind of introducing you to Grace and her character quirks a little bit more strongly. The fact that, like, her going for her ID is, like, the fourth thing that she does after talking to this guy seems crazy in a way that is like, how could you possibly be doing your job this badly?
Mm-hmm.
I do, and I'm going to sound like an asshole if I'm reading this wrong, but I think that they are attempting to imply that she is autistic in some way, which is why she can't meet people's eyes, and she has all of these like social issues, which would be, once again, would be fine if she was in the office where she seems to do her best work and not in the field with a gun, which is where she shouldn't be.
Right.
So that's what it comes off to me. It's like, it seems like she should not, there's no world in which she should have been sent on this assignment, essentially. She doesn't seem like the kind of agent who would be doing field work. It's a nice way of putting it.
Right. She just came off as just naive, and like she didn't know like what she was getting into for like 90% of the game.
Well, yeah, because even when, like, even as, like, there isn't a ton, she doesn't get a lot of development, which I was surprised by. She kind of, there's like there's the literal, like, greater understanding of the situation that she gets over the course of the story. But even when she becomes more bold in the actions that she takes, she still is, like, clearly scared shitless and, like, stuttering everything, which isn't like a stutter in a medical sense, because we see her in situations where she's comfortable having regular conversations with people. It's supposed to be like a she is afraid thing. So she is like incapable of getting over that from the beginning of the story all the way to the end. And yeah, I don't know. She does seem kind of incompetent, though I do also kind of like her as a character in a broad sense, as you were saying at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it's super broad speculation, but it almost kind of seems like maybe like old-fashioned like misogyny, maybe from the writers, that like, oh, she's a woman, so she's naive and meek, even though she's an FBI agent. Because I feel like if she had been a male character, they were like, this new protagonist, male character, FBI agent, he would not be characterized like that at all. Yeah, I would put money on that.
No, yeah, because we got Ethan Winters actually, right, and he's like a terrible character who makes quippy, shitty
right. Now
dialogue.
imagine that they said he is an FBI agent.
Yeah, it would have been exactly the same, except maybe he would have been like more like Leon. Like Leon in this game, I'll never forgive what they did in Resident Evil 4 Remake by making Leon like cooler and less of a lame dork, but still try and play him off as the lame dork character. This game kind of like toys with his shit as well, but I feel like if Grace was a male character, the reason that Grace is a female character is because if Grace was a male character, the game would have two Leons in it,
right?
And there wouldn't be a dynamic there, or they're trying to hark back to Resident Evil 1 having Jill and Chris as playable characters, and they wanted to sort of draw a parallel there.
Yeah. Or it could just be also a nod to RE4, just to pair him up with a female character.
True. Yeah. So I don't know. I
thought there was gonna be a section where you had to work together, kind of in that way, but there never was.
Yeah, I was dreaming of a section like that, where that could happen, because you do get. There are parts where you have to like there is part singular where you have to like carry Emily, which gives it this like there is sort of that escort dynamic that RE4 had.
They should have done more with that, because I thought it was a really interesting wrinkle that you can't use the typewriters when you're carrying her. Exactly. And you can't shoot your gun, and et cetera and so forth.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool little things. I don't remember when we've definitely talked about this before, but survival horror as a genre works really well when you take things away from the player. you don't always have to take things away from them. Like, you don't have to be completely powerless, like in a amnesia kind of way. But having something and then being robbed of it shortly or for a short period is a great way of reintroducing tension in familiar spaces. And I think that the Emily segment did a really good job with that, but it lasted for 25 seconds. So it wasn't that, it just didn't end up really panning out in the way that I would have liked it to. I think similarly, there's my favorite boss fight in the entire game, if you want to call it that, is processing, where you drop into that on the conveyor belt and you have to run away from the blades while you push zombies into it. It felt genuinely tense and like a resource management fight in a way that other boss battles never did. And I'm also only kind of calling it a boss battle because it's more of a set piece
it's
event.
a set piece. Yeah. I think the boss fight with, what is it, Marie? Like the big mutated, like sister of Emily.
Oh, right.
Where you have to like stealth around and like to restart the generator or whatever to open up the gate to kill her with the light.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably my favorite like actual boss fight.
Yeah, that's probably true. I'd have to think about it, but I can't. I'm blanking on so many of them that might be the only one that, because like I'm like the Mr. X fight is kind of bad. Most of Leon's are bad because I'm getting into Leon part. Let's chill out, me. Let's rein it back in. If I was going to choose a favorite fight or segment, it would end up being a Grace segment simply by virtue of the fact that I think that Leon's mechanics are kind of half-baked. And we'll get into those in a little bit, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is a very good call out, I think. I think that like those are the segments, like all of the set piece segments. So the Carrie Emily part, processing, the fight with the girl, I think is what the game refers to her as, are all these things where they take certain levels of control away from the player, which excels in Grace's segments. And I think is why mechanically those sections feel the best. That's a weird way of putting it. They feel scarier. They feel like actual survival horror. And I think just sort of play better with the system that we have.
I agree. I mean, I'm also biased because 7 is my favorite Resident Evil. So
That's fair.
I was always going to like the Grace part better.
I'm trying to think what else. Speaking of the girl who might be Emily, or sorry, not Emily.
It's
might be Marie. It is Marie, yeah. Because I looked up another disappointing thing that exists. There's a tantalizing thing in the challenges menu, which I will say they heard my complaints somehow, and they no longer pop up challenges whenever you boot the game. You have to actively choose to go into the challenges menu for it to tell you that you unlock fucking challenge points that I don't care about. So it was not at the forefront of my mind. I was mostly able to just sit and enjoy the game, which was nice. But one of the challenges that you get after you beat the game is just called like the final puzzle or something. And it is a really convoluted sequence of events that you have to do over 2 playthroughs to unite Emily and Marie and have them hear some sound. And then when that happens, you get some challenge points. Like there isn't like a big story reveal or anything for doing it.
Dude,
to the best of my knowledge,
for the DLC update where they elaborate on that.
Yeah, I would hope so. Because like I don't want some challenge points. That's not going to do anything for me at the end of the day. Yeah, so it was just all very strange. But speaking of Marie, to get back to what I was saying, there's a sequence in the game, and I just want to know your thoughts on this. There's a sequence at the end, or at the end of the first main Grace part, so like 4 or 5 hours into the game, where you have to like sneak around the basement and like do this electricity puzzle thing, which I did like, and we can talk about it if we want. It was very Outlast, but then at the end of it, once you've restored power, you run to an elevator, and the monster chases you onto the elevator, and the elevator starts to fall, and it makes a sound of somebody's limb being severed. There's a squelching noise. I bought it that Grace had her foot cut off. I was like, this game, because in the last 2 games, like literally the first thing that happens to Ethan is his arm gets cut off. Like literally in both games it happens. So I was like, maybe, right? Like we do have Leon as a character who could do something to sort of alleviate this, or like maybe this is the switchover event where Leon becomes the main protagonist. So I genuinely was like, maybe it did happen. And I was like, this is the one time I think I've ever thought that in a situation like this.
No,
it was the longest con. It took 10 years for them to set me up for this.
Now, it didn't even cross my mind for 1/2 of a split fucking second. But I do think it's funny, though, because I did watch one review before coming in here to do this episode, and they mentioned that. They thought Grace was going to end up being a mold person like Ethan. Like, they was going to have her foot get chopped off, and she was just going to put it back on. But that never even crossed my mind. I was like, it was definitely the monster's arm that got cut off.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have that much time to think about it, obviously. No. So kind of gut reaction. Yours was just correct, and mine was like, well, this is coming off of the 2 Winters games, so
the Winters of our discontent.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then this is like, you can see there's in my notes, there's a line that just says, and we're just Leon now, and we're getting to that point in the notes now.
Just a random thing, I just glanced over at my notes and saw. I noticed it stood out to, and I've only played, I watched JJ play RE1, I've played RE4, I've played 7 and 8, and now 9, and those are the only games I've played. Do they usually call the zombies in Resident Evil? Because like there was a point where Leon calls, he like it's in a cutscene, he like shoots something in the head and he calls it a zombie, and I'm like, I swear they never use the word zombie in Resident Evil, but like maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. I don't think that they do in the first game. And then in the 4th one, they're like Las Plagas or whatever.
Yeah, and they call them infected, right?
Yeah, infected,
and that's the same villains that are in RE5 as well. So that definitely carries over. So I think maybe if they do, it might be a thing that started in Resident Evil 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
I played Code Veronica like 100,000 millennia ago, and so I do not have any recollection of whether they use it.
A friend tried to get me into Resident Evil as a kid, and he gave me Code Veronica because he thought I'd like that one the best, and I played it for like maybe a half hour and was like, this isn't for me.
That's very fair. Also, I think Code Veronica, I might be wrong, is the only Resident Evil game that you can get legitimately soft locked in, or like hard locked, where you can't make progress in the game. So kind of a dangerous one to go in blind on. So
right. Yeah, well, we were like 10, so
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But I feel like they should remake that one though, so I can have a second chance at it.
I feel like I want to go back and play 0, like the one that was a GameCube exclusive, because I never got to that one. But I've heard very mixed things about it, so I don't know if it's supposed to be good or bad. But yeah, I know it's interesting. That one, almost certainly, they wouldn't call them zombies. So
right. But anyway, that was just a random thought I had. It just seemed weird to me to hear that come out of Leon's mouth.
Well, I think it kind of leads into another thing that I have in terms of like how this game connects to the previous games. Specifically, I wish it didn't. I mean, obviously it has to because Leon's in it, and like the BSAA and everything. Like, there's all of these like connections that occur, and the characters are important. But like, you look at a game like Resident Evil 8 that had Chris Redfield in it, but like Chris Redfield was treated like he was a werewolf in that game,
Right?
and he only shows up occasionally. And it's not like a big thing until the very end. 7 and 8 backload all of the stuff. All the narrative stuff in those games.
Yeah, you're a much bigger Resident Evil fan than me, but like, I've never really cared about the whole Umbrella backstory, blah blah blah, and like I feel like it works so much better with something like 7. Because, like, you're going through it feels so different, and then you're going through the house, and then, like, you find a manila folder, and then you open it up, and you see the Umbrella logo. It's like, I've never been more interested or intrigued at seeing that logo as I was the first time I saw it in 7, because it feels like a surprise.
Yeah.
You know, and then, like, the games that are, like, full of story, it just like, At least for me, anyway.
No, I agree with you.
It's like I think they feel like they're trying too hard with this backstory.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I think there are many problems. I think that Capcom is maybe, or like the Resident Evil team is maybe not that good at writing connected narratives, which is fair and believable because it's maybe the hardest kind of narrative to write, one that evolves and develops over years and has to make connections across timelines. So it becomes this like kind of tangled mess if you want to like actually understand what everything is. This game, I think, just like invented new stuff for dead guys to do. And that was kind of the main way that the plot moved ahead, which is fine, I guess. I find it interesting that the Resident Evil games canonically all take place in current year, like in whatever year they came out in. So like the Raccoon City event happened in the 90s and this game takes place in October of 2026. So there's like a lot of this like weird real life time lapse that's happening with it. So I found it mostly forgettable. Almost all of the Umbrella stuff I really didn't care about. I am somebody who would have been conditioned to love the flashback sequence where you play as Grace and like all the little dolls are walking around. But even that stuff I felt like was bogged down in all of this like, oh, there's a document here that your 6-year-old ass is going to read that's like, I'm William Spencer started the orphanage to do blah, blah, blah. I'm like, can we move it along a little bit?
I ate that part up, though. I didn't mind that.
It was a cool section, even with that stuff. But yeah,
the more like weird and spooky, the more like what was it, House BM DeVito?
Yes,
in 8. The closer it is to like that, the more I'm gonna like it. I
don't think this is the case. The giant baby from from House BM DeVito in 8. Is that the same design as like the Emily transformation, or are they different?
I think they might have a similar kind of like vaginal mouth thing going on.
Yeah,
but I don't think they're the same.
Okay, so that wasn't a deeper implication that those things are tied together.
I mean,
at least as far as I know. Yeah, I don't know.
That's what Emily and Grace whisper to Emily and Marie whisper to each other.
My grander point was more just this game did not backload its game and inter-game connections, and I think that it ended up being kind of worse for it. Mostly again during the Leon segments, because I think those are the ones where you're calling Sherry Birkin up on the phone and being like, or some organization was here, they set up camp, and also Umbrella's involved, and this guy, and maybe this is just a thing that I've forgotten because it's been a long time since I've played a lot of the games. Very few of them are like fresh in my mind, but like I don't know who Zeno is or if he's an existing character, but he seems to just look kind of like and do all the same things that Wesker does. And I'm confused as to why it's a different guy.
So, from my understanding, and I get all of this understanding from this video I watched earlier, is I think Wesker is dead.
That makes sense.
And that Zeno is a guy who is like the villain of 8, who he's like a mold person, and he can like he can shapeshift into other people. So he's purposely made himself look like Wesker. And it's revealed that he is a mold person when Leon chops his arm off at the end, and then he just grows it back on. That's supposed to like allude to that.
That is the visual.
The visual cue. But, you know, I didn't pick up on any of that. I don't even know who Wesker is, barely.
That's fair. My, like, most visceral memory of Wesker, this is me giving a eulogy at Wesker's funeral, is in Resident Evil 5, because he is, like, a boss fight in RE5. So that is why I looked at Zeno and said, like, man, he sure looks just like Wesker.
But that's a different
But, like,
guy.
obviously I've seen Wesker in the previous games as well. But yeah, it's just not that guy. So I was a little bit weirded out. I also think Victor, the other villain, is way better as a Resident Evil villain. And it made, once again, Grace's sections pretty cool when he would show up. Though it might be like a modern games writing thing, but like, and it might have something to do with the fact that we just played Far Cry 5. But like the villain that shows up and like acts civilized toward you and then like walks off without harming you is getting kind of old as a trope for me.
I mean, it got old like over a decade ago.
Yeah. So there were a few sections in here that I was not, as into.
I feel like Victor was kind of a little bit of wasted opportunity. Like I feel like not to just do Resident Evil 3 over again, but like I really felt like there should have been like a part of Grace's section where he like stalked you around, because he was like really intimidating and imposing, and I just feel like he should have had more of a presence like that. Like maybe he could have been like a roaming guy, and they could be like scripted. Oh, like kind of Lady Dimitrescu was like that.
Yes, Lady Dimitrescu did a similar thing.
Yeah, but like kind of scripted so you don't run into him as often or something. So that, I don't know. I feel like you could have done something cool with that. I was once again being sad in the second half of the game that he basically doesn't show up until the end to be a final boss, other than the early 2000s Force Variety motorcycle chase.
The motorcycle section, not my favorite section of the game, for sure. I'll give it a pass because it was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I kind of loved it, actually.
I want to say that the sequence where Victor falls off of a ledge and then the motorcycle falls on top of him and explodes got like an audible laugh out of me in a way that I don't think I saw. Like it was when the zombie dropped the chainsaw on the ground and Victor exploding were the 2 points in this game that I thought were like really funny.
Yeah. No, it felt like harkening back to Resident Evil 4 in a way that I really liked. I don't know how to exactly put it into words, but I feel like they nailed it. Like the quick-timey event parts of RE4 that they like reimagined for the remake, it felt like right in line with those segments in a way that I just kind of liked. Yeah.
And also just like thematically, it was more Leon being an action movie hero.
Yeah, and like ramping off of a giant building.
Yeah, even the whole section. Maybe the best part of Leon's section, ? Is where you have to like climb up the building that fell over. And like there's the part with the glass that you can shoot out.
Yeah, that part was pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's like that stuff was sick because it played into the stuff that makes the action part of Resident Evil cool, which is that it is not self-conscious and just doing crazy shit for the sake of it. which contrasts well with the more grounded parts of the game. So yeah, like I do like that stuff, and Victor played into that because he's very much like a wild kind of guy. Has like he's difficult to take seriously, but is very imposing, especially when you're playing as Grace. So he filled both roles surprisingly well, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could have slotted into like RE8, like as like a boss of like a zone in a more actiony game. Like he just was a cool character.
Agreed.
And he's got like 18 secret offices.
The man's got to do work.
Secret offices, yeah.
Well, I loved the part where you go into the office that's in like the cabin outside of the care center, and then you do some Resident Evil ass shit, and it like starts to lower into the ground. And Grace has a comment where she's like, what's happening? Like, who built there's like a whole thing underground? And I was like, have you never been in a Resident Evil game before? I'm like, I guess not. There's always a secret facility underground. Yep. The culmination of this game was to go to a secret underground facility.
Are we all Leon now?
I think we're all, well,
Oops,
I did have
Leon.
one other, I did have one other thing, and that kind of bridges the gap. In the first section of the game, there are a couple of stalking monsters. There's the chef, and there's what apparently is called a chunk. And they show up and like are slightly menacing, and then you run away.
What's the big like giant thing that's the size of the whole hallway?
That is the chunk.
That's the chunk, okay.
Yeah. And then the chef is the first one that you get introduced to, who's like, you have to like push
you get the key
thing
from him to open the pantry if you kill him, and you get a Chivo.
Yes, that's what I wanted to talk about. Did you kill those things as Grace, or did you just avoid them? It seems as though you killed the chef. At least
I did kill the chef, but I waited a really long time until I had like Requiem ammo or whatever, so I could just shoot him in the head with that. But I didn't kill the chunk as Grace or Leon. I just avoided it.
It's very easy to avoid. I killed the chef because I almost killed myself because I didn't know that he was there and walked out like right behind him. And it showed me the prompt to just like blow his ass up with one of the injector things.
Oh, yeah.
Which worked. I didn't think it was going to work, but that does actually kill him.
Nice.
The chunk, you can also do that too, but it takes like 4 of them to do it, which I did because I didn't think about killing them as Leon being an option.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that with both and was rewarded for it.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And thematically neat, just that it takes multiple to kill him because he's so huge. But like it's one of those things that they were so big and imposing that I just like assumed that you couldn't kill them. So I never even like crossed my mind to try.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No. And that's how they came off to me as well. I don't know if I would have attempted to kill them had I not accidentally gotten the prompt.
Right.
For the first one. So yeah. And it made it a little bit sad, I guess, that they were gone and Grace's section kind of got less
Yeah, it would
tense.
be a lot easier, yeah.
Yeah, after that, but it was, I don't know. I mean, it was still satisfying to do, and it honestly doesn't shave that much time out of like a circuit or whatever, like not having to hide from them. So, I don't know. My last thing before we go into Leon's section, we've already kind of talked about a lot of already. I am assuming that you went with the game's like default perspective options.
Yes.
I am so curious if you think that it was worth that being an option. Because I was like, they could have just enforced a first-person perspective and third-person perspective. If it's an accessibility thing, I don't know. Maybe I've never heard of that before, of them offering like different perspectives for accessibility reasons. But if it was just like a you can choose your perspective, I would not trust gamers to make that decision.
It feels like committee thinking to me. Like the guys in suits probably were like, well, to get the people who played 4 remake but not 7 and 8, we'll give them the option to play the whole thing in third person, so it's more like 4. Or like people who are the other way around, where they like 7 and 8 but not the other ones, they can all play it all in first person. It seems like somebody had that idea, somebody who calls the shots, and then they were like, make it happen.
You're right.
Because like, I don't see any kind of gameplay benefit to the swapping.
Yeah,
because it seems like it would suck to play Leon's parts in first person. And so like the only real option would be if you want to play Grace's parts in third, which I think would probably make it less scary. Yeah,
because then you would have more sort of visual awareness of what was going on. I think that's negative largely. Yeah, and it felt weird to me that they gave me that option, but also didn't give me the option to adjust my mouse sensitivity, which is...
Oh, yeah, I forgot that you were playing this on PC.
Yeah, it is smart because, like, if you played the Resident Evil 4 remake on PC, it is very easy to aim and shoot on a mouse in that game, and in games generally. So enforcing a slower mouse speed kept the game more tense and combat more of like a commitment. And I feel like they should have just locked it at first person as well, but and then do third person for Leon. Like, I think that makes the most sense, and it was a weird option. I don't necessarily begrudge it existing, but I do think it's kind of odd that it does. And now to talk about Leon, the third person with Leon, though, does show how complicated the animation has gotten for video games. In a way that I don't think about that often.
I do love all his reload animations.
It's insane. Yeah.
They're so good.
And like when you're running, like you can, if you're like running down a dark hallway and reloading a pistol, Leon will like take his flashlight.
Tucks it under his chin to reload the gun.
And I don't know if it makes the reload take longer. It would be cool if it did, if I ever timed it. But it's, like there's so much detail to everything. Like when he runs around, like depending on how you sort of like move, he'll jostle left and right, and run more sideways so you can aim at different things. It is such a detailed set of animations for a character model. Maybe the reason that you would want to play Grace in third person, maybe she also has cool animations. I don't know. But I thought it was fucking incredible.
Yeah, I can't remember if he did that in 4 Remake or not. Like,
it wasn't quite the same.
Yeah, like I don't remember if he put the flashlight under his chin. Does he have the lapel flashlight in the 4th one?
Good question.
I think
not
he does.
Yeah. It's not a thing that you have to like actively worry about in 4.
Yeah. But yeah, that stood out to me too, because it took me a minute to notice he was doing it. But yeah, like I like how like even like there's you have like a couple different types of each gun, and like there's certain ones that he'll like reload in different ways. Like there's like one of the shotguns he like flips it over and like reloads it upside down. And it's just like, that's like so cool.
Yeah.
That each one's different.
Yeah, I don't know if I wish this or not. I conceptually wish that I had more time to like experiment with the different weapons. I think the currency as a survival horror game, this is where Leon's design comes out and becomes a little bit stranger. So the game encourages you to kill everything that you see in what seems to be the world's most streamlined version of the Resident Evil 4 merchant system, where with that game you would want to spend ammo and health resources to obtain treasures to get a big payout so you can buy new weapons and attaché case like expansions and shit like that. And so it encouraged you to explore and to take more risks so that you could get more money for better upgrades and other performance things. That was the loop of 4 and why the combat felt good and why you didn't just run past everything in RE4. Then in RE8, which had a different version of that, it was more like you're going to get all of the like big stuff from the Duke at some point in the game. And you don't have to worry about it or go that far out of your way. And some of that stuff is just kind of like bonus. Now they're like, how about instead of a guy, it's a box? And instead of finding treasure, we just literally give them $200 every time they kill a zombie. And so you're like, oh, okay, I guess if it's an arcade game where it encourages you to engage by paying you for it. Mm-hmm. And I think it worked for like the function that it was trying to serve. It kept you limited on resources just enough that you had to make meaningful choices, but without ever actually putting you in like scarcity. Mm-hmm. You always had ammo. It might not be for your favorite weapon or whatever, but you will have ammo for something. And it has the fucking ass crafting system that I hate from the 4 remake system, where it's like, oh, here's a scrap and a thing, and you can put that together to make bullets. And I'm like, cool. You could have just dropped bullets on the ground and not made me go into another menu to do this. I don't think the choices are that interesting with it. I think it works better with the blood in Grace's section, classically, things being better in Grace's section. I think the crafting is more meaningful because you have a single currency that you're spending for each item, and so it makes it more meaningful what you're choosing to do. And in Leon's section, it was just like, I felt like I never really had to use it, and it was just there, and I occasionally made bullets with it. So yeah, it felt like it was just kind of this streamlined. It felt like less design went into Leon's section, I guess is my thing.
Yeah. I mean, once again, it's part of it's the have your cake and eat it too-ness of the game. Like it's only half the game, so they can only like devote so much of the resources to his part, so it's just gonna be streamlined. And making like a survival horror, it's probably much easier to like flesh out than like a gun action game. So like Leon's gets the smaller slices of the cake that they're having and eating too. Because yeah, like I was super bummed there was no merchant character and it was just a box. Like that was so lame.
Yeah, the merchants, because the Duke and the merchant are both great.
Yeah,
like
the Duke fucking rules.
Yeah, I have my complaints about 8 and the remake of 4, but they aren't. Actually, some of my complaints about the remake of 4 are because of the merchant. But that is not that important. Those characters are iconic. Like, people remember them, and because they play an important role in your character, like mechanical development of your character. So to replace them with like literally a box feels so insulting. And it's just kind of a sad day. Yeah, I wish that I had more experimentation. I'm a big just use the handgun in the action-y Resident Evil games. I feel like handgun ammo is cheap. It rewards precise aiming, which is fun to do. And so I tend to gravitate to just like using the handgun as much as possible. And then using the other ammo types as like when a situation calls for it. Those are the actual scarce resources. So I got the other shotgun that he flips upside down to reload, but I kept the bolt action rifle because I thought it was cooler than the big military one. And I used both of the SMGs and found both of them to be like pretty bad.
Yeah.
And didn't enjoy them very much.
Yeah, I feel like they have the problem that like machine guns always do in these kinds of games. Like I feel like they're like, oh, it's a machine gun, it fires so fast, so we have to make the damage less to balance it. I feel like they always overtune it to where it just feels like ass to use. Like it feels like you unload like 100 bullets into a thing and it doesn't die, and you're like, well, why the fuck? What's the point of this?
We need to go back to assault rifles as in Parasite Eve, where they fired 3 bullets at a time instead of 200 bullets at a time.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm similar where I just kind of stuck to the main ones and I experimented a little bit like towards the end and like the last 2 boss fights, just because like I ran out of ammo and I was like, oh, I'll just use this other one. But I found that I like to just have the shotgun as my walking around gun, because if something jumps at you that you weren't expecting, the shotgun will knock it over. Whereas like if you pull out the handgun and you miss, like you're fucked.
Yeah, I mean, I liked being fucked on occasion.
Sure, and also you were playing with a mouse, so
and so it was a lot easier to quickly aim at something. Did you play on modern or classic difficulty?
I played on modern. Like when the screen came up at the end, I forgot that was even a choice. Like at like your mission report at the end, I was like, oh yeah. Apparently, classic makes you save with an ink ribbon.
Yeah, it limits the number of saves you can do. And I forget what the other differences is. They might actually get rid of the crafting system, and you just have to pick shit up. I don't remember if that's the case or not. But I don't know. I support the argument that like infinite saves and stuff like that are worse for a survival horror game than not having them. But like I like having them. I saved like 70 times in this game.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that system doesn't work. While it's very cool, the ink ribbon system, like it's an iconic part of the original. But I feel like that doesn't work as well in like just today's society. Like we've talked about this a lot on other episodes, but like so many games come out now. Like I feel like back then you get a game and you'd kind of live with it. So like I feel like people had like more patience for stuff like that. Whereas like now, if you ended up running out of that like saves like 3/4 of the way through the game, like nowadays, like you'd be like, fuck this. Like, in a way that like I don't think you would back then.
Yeah. No, that's very true. It's one of those things where like it's another resource that they can sort of use to get you to like want to push further into an area or enforce that exploration. But yeah, I think there's just like there's been a lifestyle change among, this is the thing we literally talked about on the Final Fantasy episode. It's just like we don't spend the same amount of time in individual sittings with a game. It's nice to be able to just like save the game and quit if you have to. Without having to expend a resource for it. So yeah, I like that stuff, but I can also see the argument for it not being as fun, but maybe a conversation for a different time. I think we both agree a little too much about it.
Right. What did you think about the dumb hatchet fight?
Oh God. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And by glad, I mean, I resent you for bringing it up. So the hatchet fight. So I think this is what I was getting at before. And then we got off on some tangents and it may have slipped my mind slightly. I think that the biggest problem that Leon's mechanics have, I think there are 2 big problems. One I already talked about, in that if you shoot a zombie in the knee, it doesn't trip and fall over like in Resident Evil 4. You have to actually just like shoot them a bunch of times to kill them. And they're just not as like a fun game object in the way that the infected were in the 4th game. But I think that the other big problem is that Leon's defensive capabilities are focused a lot on just parrying with the hatchet, which is, the animation is very mushy and not clean. Like, it's not like a Sekiro deflection or a Dark Souls parry.
It's
right?
got
like
weird like startup lag.
Yeah. It's like, and it's tied to the animation very closely, so you have to like wait for him to do this thing and get the timing right on it. But it is also really generous because it's like such an awkward system that they made the window for having it be successful really wide. And I just find it to be not that fun to do. And almost all of the boss fights, it's imperative that you either do that or just have enough healing items to tank everything. Even down to the final boss fight, in a way that I was so surprised by, where like big slam attacks, you can just be like ping and like parry it. It's very strange. So the knife fight, the hatchet fight in the weird room with the gas is just like a terrible experience because it focuses exclusively on that mechanic I already don't like.
Yeah. I didn't use it at all before that fight. Like, I just like forgot it was a thing. So
I mean, it's like,
that made the fight extra awkward for me because I had to like figure out how to use it.
yeah, you've not had any previous experience with it. I also don't know, like, what is it mapped to on a controller?
L1.
Okay, that's not too bad. Also, that's Sekiro.
No, of course.
They just did that. Yeah. It's on spacebar on keyboard, which I found kind of odd. But not that odd, but a little weird. I don't know. So it was an odd thing because I remember in the other games, like in 7 and 8, you could like defend against attacks by on PC. It's like right click. You like hold your hands up and it reduces the amount of damage that you take. And I very much expected this game to have that kind of a function, but it just doesn't. Like, Grace is completely helpless if she's cornered. And Leon has this weird parry thing, which is just it's mushy and weird. It's not like a cool parry. It's a sad parry.
Yeah, I feel like the put your hands up to block was kind of dumb anyway. So, I
mean, it looked dumb because it would be like guy with a chainsaw comes after you, and you're just like, let me hold my hands up. Yeah, no, I do think that made that Leon's boss fight suffer a little bit though, because it felt like it was kind of centralized. Leon very much just like plants his feet in one place, which I guess is kind of like Resident Evil 4. It came out on a system where they only had one like big analog stick, so I mean, it had to. I don't know. For some reason in the GameCube game, whenever you aimed, you had to like stop moving,
right,
to do it. So I guess it kind of works in that sense, but yeah, I thought the fight with Mr. X, with the guy with the coat, what in the basketball court, felt kind of like a nothing fight. There's a sequence, like a set piece sequence earlier in the game where he like stabs a big piece of building material through a wall and then chases you down a hallway. Like, and then in the boss fight, you just like shoot the glowing weak spot.
Right. Yeah. He good thing he exposed his weak spot.
Yeah. It's like the whole point of that. Like, I guess it's not the same guy, but it is like a variation on the Mr. X character, is like that they are bulletproof and unstoppable, and then you stop him with bullets later in the game. So it felt like kind of an anticlimax to me.
Yeah. Apparently those are enemies from previous games, like the big mutated Mr. X guy. And the first move he does, I learned this from that video I watched, but apparently the first move he does at the end of that cutscene, he like is supposed to be like a one-hit kill move that the boss has, and it's supposed to be like extra badass that Leon just parries it. So it's like that's like a supposed to be like a shit your pants moment for big fans or whatever.
Oh yeah, I didn't recognize that at all. There is, as the games have kind of always had, just to speak more on that great animation work, I guess. There is that I like if you get caught when he's doing that thing with the piece of building material, he like impales you with it and then just like grabs both halves of your body and pushes them down and then rips you in two. It's like a really dope animation. And a lot of just like random enemies get cool kill animations if they happen to get you.
Yeah, they're intentionally like drawn out longer than you think they would go, like to make you uncomfortable.
Which is a thing that they tried in the new Tomb Raider games, isn't it? And everyone was like, this is weird.
They made them like gratuitously violent, like even by the standards of video game players.
Which is a high standard, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you would just like fall and just get like brutally impaled in like the grossest way possible or whatever. The only other thing I have on Leon's sections is just in the ruins of Raccoon City, where most of his stuff takes place. It felt very Last of Us inspired to me. Even the cool part where you go up in the building, like I feel like the second Last of Us had a section like that, where you had to go up in like a really tall building and then you had to cross over like some scaffolding to another building or something.
That does sound really familiar, yeah.
Yeah. So it just felt very inspired by that to me in a handful of different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good because like I actually do I have a love-hate relationship with the design of those areas because I do think they're cool and I see what they're going for, but I don't like the fact that there's just like tons and tons and tons of references to older games. But because this is a game where like it sort of implies, I mean, I don't know. We'll talk about this in a second, but in the ending that I chose, Leon lives, but it does sort of imply that Leon could die in this game, which giving him a send-off, I think warrants some amount of that. But then the other problem I had was just like, it's so fucking brown.
Yeah.
It's a really brown
drab
section. Yeah.
You know, I hate that shit.
Yeah. So that was a little bit unfortunate. But otherwise, yeah, I think it looks cool in a grander scale. And I like that, you know, it gives that sort of like Mad Max kind of post-apocalypse where people are riding around on motorcycles and shooting guns at each other. So that was kind of cool. What ending did you go for?
So I did them both. Nice. I did, and Leon does die in the other ending. He just gets shot in the head by Zeno. But yeah, like, because I did that ending first. Because like Leon, like right before the ending, he's like, hey, like whatever what happens, like fucking stick to the mission or whatever. So I was like, I guess I'll just do what Leon said and I'll destroy Elpis. And then when you do, it's like a very like Life is Strange kind of thing where like it basically just like plays a wet fart sound and like Leon gets shot in the head and then the credits roll and then it's like, do you want to do the other one? Like it prompts you to do the other ending. It's like, are you unsatisfied? So then I did, and then there's a whole 2 boss fights, and you know the whole like a big to do with the other ending. So
that is an insane sequence of events. I went with the one that was release Elpis because it just sounded cool.
Yeah, I was like torn. But
yeah, I was like, I hope that Elpis is like a fucking giant 9. It's like, what's that fucking movie that we watched that had the 10-foot tall angel at the end of it?
A Dark Song.
A Dark Song. Yeah, I wanted it to be a Dark Song because they did. If I had been paying more attention and was maybe a smarter person, I would have recognized that Elpis was going to be like a vial in a centrifuge, because that's what every Resident Evil game comes down to in the end. But I was like, maybe it'll be a 10-foot tall angel and I'll fight it with somebody will drop a rocket launcher from a helicopter and I'll have to shoot it at it. So that's kind of what I was expecting. And the fact that it wasn't that, and then I got a totally different, like, two-phase boss fight that was kind of just a victory lap, I guess, was a little bit, not disappointing necessarily, but, like, it wasn't what I was expecting, which is a good thing. But I feel like if what happened to you happened to me, I would be a lot more, I don't know, unsatisfied with the direction that they took it, because I don't like just putting up a big sign that says, that was the bad ending. Do you want to go back and do the good ending?
Yeah. Like, why even do the choice if the bad ending's going to be nothing like that?
Yeah. But it's, this is just part of the ritual for me. When I finish a game, I let the credits run. I think I made a comment about this when we did Nancy Drew, because so few people worked on the game that they had the credits loop, and I ended up sitting through it like 3 times accidentally.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm the opposite, because I used to do that, and I got burned really hard by Rayman Legends. Because, like, no lie, the credits ran for, like, 45 minutes. Like, they just kept going. And I'm like, so I always check to see if you can skip them, and I always skip them now.
I think, not Resident Evil. Fuck. The Evil Within 2 was a game that had,
the
like...
Imagine Dragons song.
The Imagine Dragons song, but it was also, like, a 50-minute or 45-minute. It was a Rayman Legends caliber
it's like
credits roll.
As many people as died in Vietnam work on video games now.
Exactly. So yeah, sometimes you get burned. I'm very glad that you don't have this habit anymore, because if you sat through, because the credits for this game are probably like 20 minutes long, if you sat through that and then it was like, do you want to play the good ending? You would be like, no, honestly, I'm in my PJs now. You took too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's silly. Ultimately I found the ending mechanically fine, but the narrative ending of the game felt a little bit too with a bow on it for me.
I think that's kind of the point of this game, though. Like, as I was kind of trying to get at the beginning, I feel like they've like, this is just all my speculation. I could be completely wrong, and they could run it into the ground with the next game. I don't know. But, like, it feels like they kind of reinvented the series with 7 and 8, but it feels like there must be something that's compelling them to, like, want to put the whole, like, ongoing story from the, all the games to rest, and this was kind of their attempt to do that and give themselves, like, a clean slate.
Yeah. And that would be great if they did do that. And then whatever Resident Evil 10 is, they can take it in a different direction. But I feel like they almost got it right 22 years ago when Resident Evil 4 played like a totally different thing. And it was like not tied up with Umbrella for the most part until you get to the fucking very end of the game, because of course it is. And then they just kind of spiraled right back into their old ways after that. So it would be nice if they actually did make a clean break and moved the series to something else. Because it is getting a little bit... one of the only notes that I didn't like really address leading up to this is I do feel like the story is becoming... like the narrative of Resident Evil games largely is now a little too incestuous, where it's like we have the stories from the first 3 games and they're really closely related, and then you have the stories from 4, 5, and 6 and they're closely related to each other, and then they were like, now in 7 it's going to be like this different thing, but then at the end it's going to be this whole fucking connection back to the old stuff. And it feels like they can't escape it. They keep having to fall back on it, and it keeps being shoehorned in more and more awkward ways. So, yeah. I wouldn't go so far as to say I wish that the ending was that Leon just fucking dies of the T-virus, and then Because I don't think that ending is particularly satisfying. But I guess the more they can close off, the better it will be in the future.
Mm-hmm. It's a bright future. Umbrella's been put to bed, and also Ethan is dead too. So now we can go forward.
Didn't 8 this cut this conversation out because it's fucking stupid and pointless. Didn't 8 end with like a weird cliffhanger ending about Ethan's daughter?
Yeah, it actually, until I started playing this game, I assumed that's who the female protagonist of this game was, and then it wasn't.
Right. So we don't know anything
So yeah, I mean,
is
stay
going
tuned
on with
for
that,
RE10 whenever that happens.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm more upset that it's a connection to Ethan Winters than if it were a connection to Umbrella. That would be in the next game.
You know, I'm sure it will be both.
Do we have bioweapon thoughts?
My bioweapon thoughts. So I feel like we kind of like dumped all over the game a bit, but I did enjoy it. You know, we kind of talked about this a little bit. Like, that's just kind of the state of AAA games development now. All this time and money and hundreds of people work on a thing, and then you're like, oh, it was pretty good. You know, like maybe it's just me or us, or we played so many games or whatever, but like this, I feel like nothing in the past console generation has been that memorable. And I would say this is actually like one of the better games that I've played in a long time, as far as like modern AAA releases. Like, I did enjoy it. Like, you did your top 100 games list however many months ago that was now, which prompted me to revisit mine, which I have not shared with anybody yet. But surprisingly to me, I was sorting through the games. RE7 landed at number 14. So I did like a top 20. So 7's one of my favorite games ever made, actually. And this game does carry on in its tradition for its first half. And I did really, in the first half is my favorite part. And yeah, like I like Resident Evil 4. It's like my second favorite RE game. And I did enjoy the remake, and I like the Leon parts in this, but like, I really think these should have just been two different games. I think this game should have been in the style of 7-8 to make it a nice little trilogy. And then RE10 could have been like the Leon sequel game that builds off the RE4 remake mechanics. And they could even tie together. Like, Leon could have been running around in the background of this game, and then the next one could be what he was doing. Or if they wanted to do that. But like, I really think they should have had restraint or whatever to make them two different games, because I think that's this game's biggest weakness. Like, I think both halves are good, but neither really get to shine. And yeah, like I think, you know, I don't know. It's still, yeah, like I said, it's still a good game. Like, I don't really hold it against it that much because it was a fun time. I like that these games resist the modern AAA trend of being more open and fucking 40 hours long and whatever. I like this was like a 15, or not even 15, like a 12-hour game. Nice brisk experience. Like, I had a good time playing through it. It's just missed potential, I think, more than anything else. And I'm not big into the story, which this game was really focused on. So I would, you know, that's not really doing a ton for me. So like, overall good, but just kind of like bogged down in the fucking, I don't know, state of the world or whatever. And the economy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a bit disappointing. I want to say, just up front, in my final thoughts, in my bioweapon thoughts, that I do think that RE9 succeeded in a lot of the ways that I wanted it to. I wasn't sure what to expect necessarily coming in. I was expecting something. My expectations evolved a lot as I was being exposed to the different parts of the game. And I think that they hit on something that is a really tremendous idea, which is to have this like shared location where multiple characters can interact with it in different ways. I think that is the best part about this game's design, and a really good way of doing multi-protagonist games, which are otherwise kind of difficult to pull off. And so I want to give it its flowers where it absolutely deserves them. I think that the care center part of this game is among... It would have moved the needle as far as like how I rank the Resident Evil games if it was all that it was. But unfortunately, the game is more than that and too much more than that. It has a lot of unnecessary systems, and it has a lot of what you were talking about, that just sort of very tiring ties back to other games, a focus on a story that maybe doesn't work anymore. I think it's too bloated, like a transformed child. That's a terrible way to put it. But it is bloated like that. And yeah, I think it is a symptom, I think, a bit of the clout that the series has. It's a symptom of them trying to create a game that feels like a bookend. Because everybody recognizes the trilogy system that's happening in the Resident Evil games, but nobody acknowledges it. They don't have to acknowledge it, but they kind of did by trying to conclude a bunch of different things in this game. So I don't know. I like this game. I had fun with it. I feel roughly as pessimistic as you do about the current like AAA space in this console generation. So like I have to agree that this is like one of the better AAA games that I've played in close to a decade. Like, we've had good stuff, but not an overwhelming amount of it. So it's it's a game that I liked. I would recommend people try playing it if it is a thing that sounds like they would be into, but it might have some context involved in making that recommendation. Maybe I think this is a great game in comparison to other things that you could be playing right now. Thank you for listening to Describing the Skybox this week.
What will we be describing next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo World. The joke was so bad it stopped me in my tracks. This is obviously one of the most classic platformers ever made, and a game that I have to assume is some kind of divine intervention, and he has not yet played. So.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to be the inverse of the Mario 64 episode, where I've never played it before, and I feel like I'm the reason we haven't done it yet is because I'm worried that I'm gonna play it and be like, and I don't want to be that guy.
That's
who
true.
Says
I love
to a classic game.
Or you might think that I love being that guy.
My prediction is that I will have missed my window to have been very into it.
Possibly. But I don't know. We'll argue about it on the episode. It'll be great content. That's what I say. But until that time, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at describingtheskybox.com or on splattershot.pro. There you can find links to our Blue Sky account, our YouTube channel, the Discord server where people talk about the games that we play or suggest games for us to talk about. You can listen to any of our old episodes, including ones that we did on every Resident Evil game ever made. That's not true. Resident Evil 4, the Resident Evil 4 remake, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8. Technically Resident Evil 1. We will be but at some point in the next, like, I'll say 2 years, we will probably revisit that game.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the earliest episodes that we did.
Yeah, it's like the 3rd episode or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, also we've done Outlast and other horror stuff. We have a horror playlist, so you can peruse that.
Yeah. We go very hard on horror. We even did everyone's favorite theme month that isn't games named after women whose names start with the letter L, but Spooktember in July, where we talked about games with the word ghost in the title and also 2 Resident Evil games.
Yep.
So, yeah, if that's your thing, you're welcome home. Welcome to the family, son.
There you go.
Craft a like button out of infected blood and med injector thing. Good luck.
A motorcycle off of a building so that you can ring that bell.
Grow your powers by injecting a thing in a vial that just popped up 1 second ago, like a really fucking smart guy, and then it turned out it was actually the cure to having powers, and then you died. What a way to go. In the comment section.
Shoot Leon in the head in the comment section.
In the comment section. That's fun. That was the sound of me being brutally impaled, in case you were wondering.